there's joy in unity.
Hello, I'm Lloydetta Quaicoe, and welcome to Sharing Our Cultures. Joining me today in conversation is Michelle Debna Canning. She's the Manager and Policy Analyst for the Multicultural Women's Organization of Newfoundland and Labrador, and she's also the host of the Tombolo Multicultural Variety Show. Welcome back to Sharing Our Cultures. Hi, Michelle. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, good. I have really admired the work you do with the Multicultural Women's Organization of Newfoundland and Labrador, and we're going to talk about that later on. But I want to start off with you telling us a little bit about you. Like, what do you remember? I know you came here when you were quite young, but what do you remember those early days in St. John's?
So I guess if we're starting at 7, we moved to St. John's from, if we work backwards, we're looking at, I moved there from England, and before that I was born in Bangladesh. So I think at 7, it was a fairly positive experience for me. When I lived in Nottingham, England, there wasn't any English second language program for children. And so I didn't have that ability to kind of integrate or make friends or communicate properly with the teachers. But then when I came to St. John's, they put me in the English second language program right away. So, you know, that kind of gave me those tools I needed right away to start speaking and make friends and talk to the teachers if I had problems. So I found that really helpful. In some ways it was tougher also because my parents both came here, and then my dad had to go back to Bangladesh to work for 2 years. So my mom was raising the two of us alone, and you know, we acclimated to that newcomer life where you don't have a car yet, and we were living with a family member, and we were just kind of adjusting in that life, and that was a bit of a culture shock, you know, when you go from a comfortable living in Bangladesh to coming here. But you know, the big reason we came, to my understanding when I was a child especially, was they just knew that Canada was going to be a place where it was safe and secure, raising their children, and they had family here, and they just heard so many great things about it that they wanted to establish themselves here as well and raise kids here.
Wait, so they chose Newfoundland and Labrador?
They did, because I already had an aunt and an uncle
Okay,
here.
okay.
So they were thinking at least with some family connection, and they were living here already for the last, 15 years or so. So they received a lot of positive feedback from that.
Okay, so that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we work with youth from diverse cultural backgrounds, and when they're newcomers, I often see the bit of struggle. The parents want them to keep the traditional culture, and because teenagers then they want to adapt to the new culture and fit in. So how was that for you? Like, how are you balancing your cultural identity and the new Canadian culture?
I remember when I was 7 and I was coming home from school in grade 2, my mom would pretend that she didn't understand English. So she did. And she would just say, you know, what is that? Can you say that in Bengali again? And then so that would teach me to restructure my thought process again into Bangla and convert my day into that whole language and dialogue. So in terms of language, I found that it was really good because it helped me still communicate and keep connected with the Bengali community, not only in Newfoundland, but also my family that are all living elsewhere, especially for those that don't understand English. But then in school and with my friends and that whole world, I was able to, I think within a year and a half, the English second language teacher was like, okay, you're good to go. You can just join class again. So I think because I was only 8 years old, I was able to pick up the language quite quickly and kind of speak it accent-free and things like that. So age had a bit of an advantage with that learning ability as well. So I think that was one way I had to balance it. Another way I had to balance it was there was communication that definitely had to be had. Like in Bangladesh, you're not dating as a teenager, you're not staying out until 10 or 11, you're not having sleepovers. So in some ways I had to talk about it, and my parents had to explain, some of these things just make us really uncomfortable, and we don't know if this is safe or not. And other things, they were like, okay, well, we can accommodate to this, because they didn't want me to miss out on that adolescent experience either. And it's all developmental, but unless it wasn't easy, but I think it was, when you have good communication with your parents, I think you can at least talk it out. And if you have other mentors or other community members, at this point, integration was a big thing. If once your family starts becoming friends with local people, or, for example, my aunt and uncle have lived here for a longer amount of time, you can understand the culture better. You don't feel that fear of the unknown as much. And once you don't have that fear as much, you're more open-minded to see, what does this culture have to offer, and how can we kind of integrate some of it in?
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess then your parents were allowing you to do some things,
Yeah.
but they were still holding on to some of the traditional things.
Yes,
That, no, we wouldn't be doing that if you were in Bangladesh, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so that's great. And so as a teenager, you kind of, everything was smooth for you then, because by the time you became a teenager, you had all these skills on your backpack.
I mean, I think it's as smooth as it could be, being a child of immigrants. There was, like, you're starting to make friends. We moved around a lot from the ages of 8 until 12. So for me, that felt like a bit of an unstable time, because my dad came back in 1996, and then he had to start looking for work, and then we had to move locations based on work, basically, really. So I think I was like moving 3 or 4 schools within 3 or 4 years. So that friendship aspect was more challenging. I had to get my, outward skills and my social skills. I had to flex them, basically. And I had to adapt to new situations really, really quickly. So I wouldn't say that was very smooth, but it did give me some adapting skills. So by the time I was a teenager, I had already honed my social skills. I had no choice.
Okay. So that was good then for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as a teenager as well, you did a lot of volunteering. Can you tell us about that?
So I think as a teenager, I started just getting involved in a lot of things, and my family is all about kind of like giving back with that aspect too. So I started volunteering at nonprofit organizations such as Tombolo Multicultural. I don't remember the complete name back then, but it was Tombolo, and then Multicultural Women's Organization. There was lots of cultural events that happened in those areas. Sometimes I was emceeing, sometimes I was helping with event, just set up and clean up. But that also gave me a perspective into this whole diverse culture that's out there. You don't feel like you're alone in a sea of locals that are only descendants from, Scottish, Irish, English descent, which were a majority of my friends. Then they were great, but you were able to kind of get that experience into that other world. And Multicultural Women's Organization and Tombolo had events that attracted all these diverse communities to attend these events. So I got that exposure at an early age. And I also volunteered with the hospital, so the Janeway and the Health Science Center, with the gift shops and playing with the kids and feeding some of the patients. So I think I got a different area just to help, and idle hands was not something that's encouraged.
No, not in our culture either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was good, though, that you did have the opportunity. Besides, it helped you to build some social networks as well, whilst you were volunteering in the various places. And so you had your education and training here in St. John's?
Well, so I finished up until high school here. I graduated from Holy Heart. I think Holy Heart was one of my favorite high schools, definitely, because there was just, it didn't matter what kind of personality you had, they had these extracurriculars that was available to you. Whether you were a theater kid or a rugby kid or whatever it is, they just had a variety, especially for, back in the mid-2000s. So I thought that was really good exposure. After that, I went to Memorial University to do my undergrad in biochemistry and nutrition. And then I went and did a fast-track program at Acadia University in Nova Scotia, and that was with nutrition and dietetics. And then I came back and I did my master's here again in pharmacology and biology.
Oh, okay. So but you had to travel to Acadia to do that, and then you came back. So what was the transition from one university to the next? And coming back here?
It was nice.
Yeah,
I liked
okay.
it because we lived in Nova Scotia at one point when we were younger anyway. And Wolfville, Nova Scotia is a small university town. So I was surrounded by other kids or university students that also had all left their homes. So it was very easy to make that community of friends. I would say it was easier to make friends as I got older than even when I was younger, when I was still trying to find myself. But by the time you're 19, 20 years old, your identity becomes something that you can own more. Like I was talking about my culture more and my lifestyle and my food in my 20s than I ever was as a teenager or as a child.
Okay, so those various aspects of your culture, then you felt empowered maybe? You had the agency to share
Yes.
when you were older than when you were much younger.
Yeah, I think because the times were changing too. There was this proclamation that, being different, there was just movement I found just in society and pop culture, whatever it is, that being different, standing out, you had something to offer. Whereas in the 90s, when you were here going to elementary school or junior high, we were trying to blend in as much as possible and lay low. You were trying to just make some friends, not stand out too much. But by the time you were in your 20s, we were proudly talking about things like, oh, we're doing this cultural event. Hey, look, half the city is supporting us and showing up to these. All of a sudden, Bengali food, South Asian food in general was becoming very popular. The restaurants were popping up more, right? So you could see that change in the environment around you, and that made you feel more confident about, I guess, displaying who you already are. Yeah.
That cultural identity, whether it be in food or clothing or music.
Yes,
yeah. I think it's because as we got more culturally diverse in the province, it's lent itself to many people accepting that and coming to terms with the fact that there is diversity. It's a multicultural, Canada is a multicultural society, and it was happening here as well in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's great. Okay, we're just going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about what you've been busy doing. Okay. Don't go away. Sharing Our Cultures will be right back.
Your opinion matters, and we want to hear from you. Get in touch with us using our viewer feedback line, your direct connection to shaping the shows you love. It's easy. Just grab your phone, scan the QR code on your screen, and take our quick survey. Share your thoughts, and let's make your viewing experience even better. At Rogers TV, we know our community thrives because of the incredible people who support it. Today, we want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all our amazing volunteers. Your hard work, dedication, and passion make our productions possible, bringing local stories and events to life for everyone to enjoy. Whether you're behind the camera, in the control room, or helping at events, your contributions are invaluable.
You're watching Rogers TV St. John's.
Welcome back to Sharing Our Cultures and my conversation with the lovely Michelle Devnath Canning. Now we want to find out about your work and what you do. You said a little bit earlier you volunteered with the Multicultural Women's Organization, but now you're the manager and a policy analyst. Now tell me what's involved in that role.
Well, with that role, because this organization is a nonprofit and we're serving newcomer, immigrant, and multicultural women and their families, now I'm kind of in a role where I'm more focused on the capacity building of the organization without being able to, develop the policies and talk about all the foundational structural things. This organization's sustainability is not going to be strong. So that's where I come in. I work on new policies based on best practices. Our times are changing. At one point our priority may have been something like a COVID policy, but now it's more so, about the digital privacy setups and things like that, just where we want to go with all these things. So I research and develop the policies for the organization. I do some onboarding for all the new staff that come on here. I also connect with the board of directors. We have a great board, and as they come in, I circulate and their bylaws and their onboarding material, and I'm kind of their go-to person if they have any questions regarding the governance and the structure of the organization as well. And I also oversee some projects. So all our projects have separate, very qualified leads, but then before they may post something or send something along, I'm overseeing it and just making sure they're on their timeline, reviewing their work plans, things like that as well.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot. So I said you've been making a great impact in our community with what you do. Now, I also know that you offer certain programs, sessions, workshops, things like that. Can you talk a little bit about that and what they are? And
Yeah, well, I mean, currently we are working with gender-based violence work. So there's sessions where we're offering awareness and education training to our participants that are coming in. There's one that's focused on women and their families, and there's another one that's actually focused on men and boys. So we're offering different awareness sessions there as well. We collaborate with a lot of the community organizations. They come in and they help with the presentations and share the material. So it's been really great because collaborators really keep this organization, it helps us build and expand, right? Another work that we are doing is also the anti-racism work. So, we're doing focus groups, and we're developing employment readiness workshops and career fairs and things like that, so that for those that aren't tapped into maybe the mainstream resources that are already out there, we can help promote that. We do some referrals. We have career fairs where we welcome all the booths to come in and say, not only that we are available, but we are hiring within the next 6 months, and we help clarify a lot of these misconceptions. We've actually got some tutorial videos that we are going to be releasing soon, where it's just things like, what do you do as a newcomer with emergency preparedness? Or when you go to a career fair, how do you navigate this? When you are going to trying to find a doctor, what are the different venues that you can use? And just things like that may seem like it's natural knowledge to people who are local here, but for people that are just coming in, every culture practices all of these things in a different way.
Right, yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I'm glad you're telling us that you do have some resources for men and boys as well. Because when you think about gender-based violence or intimate partner violence, it's always great to have men and boys also, being educated, about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something we were also hearing repeatedly in our first gender-based violence program as well. The women were like, well, how do we translate this to some of the men and the boys in our community? Or how do we, it seems like this is happening continuously. How do we get them in the room as well? So now that there is more funding and programs that are catered towards the men and boys program, we are able to share this, but in a non-intimidating way. This isn't finger blaming, or anything like that. We're just sharing the resources, because these men and boys are also the future as well, and the way that they are treating their partners or their daughters or any females in their life at home is, it's really shaping the future.
Right. No, that's so true, and I'm glad to see that a lot more resources have been put into talking more about the gender-based violence, because it's important and it affects the whole community as well. Yeah. So, because you're working with immigrant women, for the newcomer women, what do you see as important for them to be able to integrate into the society in this province?
I think some things that are important is that they just need some of the tools, language is a big one. For example, there are some women, the newcomer of women is such a broad stroke, but you've got women coming in who have fully developed English skills that are ready to work on the market, whereas others that are just learning the letters. So the language is a big one. Once you have accomplished a certain level of comfort with language, you're receiving the comfort you need. So we have English conversational classes currently, and they're really just there for where we pick different topics, but it's also a focus on the integration aspect. For example, if you're looking at an English class, this focus is going to be Canada Day coming up, because if you're living in this country, it's important that you are confident to share your own culture, but that you're also learning about the culture that you are coming to as well. You know, your kids are learning this stuff in school. You want to still be able to connect with them. You want to be able to know what kind of celebrations are going on in this community so that you feel like you're a part of this community. So I think that's always some of our goals, is to integrate, but is to offer these services, but to also have that aspect of integration in there. So, I mean, language is a big one, and then of course, you know, employment services, housing, things like that. But a lot of that ties with who you know and the availability to network. And how can you network? Well, you need that language to get you started, you know? You need a sense of community to get you started. So reducing social isolation is a big thing that we are also doing at work, even just things that are health and wellness related, from cooking classes to art classes. They're a chance for participants to come in, not only speak to people from their own cultures, but from different cultures, get some perspectives. How did you get this job? Hey, my child is in school, but how do you make a meeting with the teacher? Just these day-to-day activities, and create an environment where they don't feel isolated as they're going through challenges.
So you say that some of what you're doing helps them to bridge that gap. So instead of being socially isolated, maybe being at home all the time, by coming to the programs that you have and the projects that you have, they're able to then connect with the community. Okay, that's great, because that's important work, yes, because I have heard women say, well, I don't know where to go and I didn't know how to do this, or the children will say, oh, my parents can't make it to parent-teacher meeting because they do not have the language, and so and they don't feel comfortable and feel confident in going to speak with their teachers. So I don't know if that's anything you've heard in your work, or is there any sort of support that is available for?
Yeah, so I mean, some of those things are always a topic in English conversation classes. We do the assessments ahead of time to see what are the different topics that they want to learn about, and then they're given a space to have these conversations, and an English teacher will help them with the language, you know, help them with the process. Another tool that will definitely empower newcomers to integrate in this province is anything to do with employment readiness. You know, we've got, right now, we offer sessions where companies are coming in, representatives are coming in, and they have, you know, personalized presentations for these individuals, you know, work culture manners, and more than just resume and interview workshops, you know, just like what is a proper way to really get your name across, you know, how should your emails be drafted, what seems pushy culturally versus what is acceptable, you know, do you do what you used to do in the olden days where you're just handing out resumes, where is it appropriate, where is it not? So it's a lot of very catered, more structured, more customized presentations, again, based on the needs of what our members are asking for.
Okay, and yeah, that's great, because I know now a lot of places would not take a paper copy of a resume. You have to go online, and then that's a whole new, you know, internet safety and how to navigate online applications for jobs is another aspect of that. And now you've all grown up, and you've got a daughter of your own. I think she's about the same age as when you arrived here. How are you navigating? She's got two cultural heritage, and how do you help her navigate both cultures?
Yeah, so as someone, I guess, from like my husband's Newfoundland, raised and brought up, and for myself, who's Bengali but also raised in Newfoundland, there is a lot more in common than we think. But I find that there's an attitude shift of kids going to school these days. There is this encouragement of really displaying if there's some other cultures that you identify with. So, you know, if there's like Holi or Diwali in school, the teachers will be like, oh, who celebrates? And my daughter Maya will come home and she'll say, Mommy, what can I take to show this to my class tomorrow? And that might be a personality thing, but I think it's also a level of confidence that a lot of these kids are getting really straight from preschool, you know, where they're proud to show these individual different sides of them. And I think I also try to make an effort. If I don't know things about Canadian culture because I didn't have it growing up, I'll read up on it, you know. One of the new things that the kids are doing these days are leprechaun traps, and that's something that is from an Irish cultural descent, but the kids in Canada are doing it. So in the morning, we went to a holly celebration, which is a festival of colors. In the evening, I'm setting up a leprechaun trap with her, because I want to make that extra effort. I don't want her to feel like she's missing out any of the mainstream Canadian culture, but I also want her to have fun with the Bengali culture aspect, not feel like it's a pressure to retain or hold on to it in a way that you're not Bengali enough.
Yeah. I know you're really busy with the work that you do, but you're also a host of a television show. So can you tell us about that?
Yes, so currently we're on season 3 of the Tombolo Multicultural Variety Show. So that's something that's overseen by Zainab Jarrett, the executive director, and we've got a team of 3 of us now. And right now, this season, we are interviewing presidents of different cultural associations that are present in Newfoundland and Labrador, kind of trying to figure out, if people from your community are coming in, what kind of services do you offer? Where do we refer them to? What's a population like in Newfoundland and Labrador? What's something you want the locals to find out about your culture and things? So every season we're focusing on different things, and it's been really enlightening. So that's actually going on Rogers TV as well.
Okay, so that's great. Now, what were your previous ones? So this is your 3rd season. Your first 2 seasons had different themes as well. And what were those?
They did. So season 1, we were interviewing newcomer and immigrant vendors in the food market. So anyone that had established a business with food was done in season 1. And season 2, we were focusing on newcomer and immigrants that are living here, that are musicians, really. Okay. So it was a great way because we were able to not only promote their individual businesses and promote the art, but we were able to share, that with the Newfoundland locals as well. So it was great.
I'm really glad we had this conversation.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a while since we caught up on things, but as I say, I respect very much the work that you do. You've done so much for Multicultural Women's Organization, and thank you so much, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And Sharing Our Cultures will be right back.
Your opinion matters, and we want to hear from you. Get in touch with us using our viewer feedback line, your direct connection to shaping the shows you love. It's easy. Just grab your phone, scan the QR code on your screen, and take our quick survey. Share your thoughts, and let's make your viewing experience even better.
Thanks to Michelle and to you for watching. Join us again for another episode of Sharing Our Cultures and get to meet some more remarkable people who are making an impact in our province.
Come together, you and me, come together right now for all the world to see. Come together.